Hello, I am Karen Robichaud, and I am your cruise ship director as you learn about a healthy lifestyle approach. Join me on our voyage. We shall navigate these rocky seas together. All kinds of objectives, you're going to learn all kinds of wonderful things, and understand the importance of implementing a healthy lifestyle program, recognizing the relationship between spirituality and wellness, identifying the major risk factors for coronary heart disease. You're going to be able to differentiate physiological age and chronological age. So we're going to become acquainted with cancer prevention guidelines, and we're going to learn the health consequences of chemical abuse and irresponsible sex. So quite a few things we'll be going over as we learn the healthy approach to life. Furthermore, we're going to be improving our health. It's a matter of personal choice, so you have quite a bit of autonomy in this journey. The wellness approach is the combination of a fitness program and a healthy lifestyle. So today you're going to be better equipped to make sound decisions for your health, and this will help you accomplish your health goals. Wellness lifestyle, it increases your longevity and your wellness as far as your not just how long you live, but a wellness lifestyle also encompasses the quality of your life. So being physically active, moving quite a bit, don't use tobacco, eat a healthy diet, avoid frequent high sugar snacks between meals, maintain recommended body weight through healthy nutrition and physical activity, sleep 7 to 8 hours each night, lower stress levels, drink alcohol only moderately or not at all, surround yourself with healthy relationships in toxic relationships sooner rather than later. Be informed about the environment and avoid environmental risk factors. Increase educational levels. The more education you complete, the longer you tend to live. And also take personal safety measures. Now, our book is not secular, and in all the wellness books, your book is secular. It's not a spiritual book, but it talks about how being a Christian, really having any faith tradition, transcends through all of the health dynamics. So being committed to God or a higher power will very much improve your health at all levels. And we can see that in this Venn diagram that you engage with the community differently and your environment. If you're full of love, light, and tolerance, then you can really improve your health, and you can really help people around you to be healthier and happier as well. So these are the causes of death, and I'm not going to read through them all. I'm going to let you look. There's 77 slides in this particular slide deck, and so for many of these that are looking at graphs, I'm going to give you some choice to look and read at your own rate. But now I no longer have on my cruise ship captain's hat. I am putting on the Grim Reaper outfit to talk about death and sickness, morbidity, and mortality. We're going to talk for a bit about cardiovascular disease, so a lot of people die, in short, from cardiovascular disease. 85 million are afflicted. 15 million people have coronary heart disease. Example of cardiovascular disease: heart attacks, and you guys probably know people with these issues. Congenital heart disease, that's sometimes when you're born with it. Rheumatic heart disease, you might get that if you've had some kind of fever as a child or had rheumatic fever that could manifest itself in your heart and make your heart weak. Arteriosclerosis, strokes, high blood pressure, and congenital heart failure. So diseases of the heart are the number one health problem in the United States. So if you're interested in job security, you might want to gravitate towards a career that helps people in this way. Again, this is you can read this particular slide. Cardiovascular disease is decreasing in the United States, where there's better techniques to help people fight it, and there's good interventions. CHD is the major form of CVD. So if your arteries that are in charge of supplying nutrients to your person. If they are narrowed by fatty deposits, then they're more restrictive and not as effective. So we're going to learn about how to improve that and how to make you healthier. And this diminished blood supply to the heart muscle, it actually can make some of your heart die, and so that's a heart attack. If you'll look at this particular slide, my editors, my OCD people out there, you'll notice that we're missing two T's. So there are mistakes in this slideshow, and that's okay, because with our health, sometimes we make mistakes too, but we keep going and we keep learning. I think that's the hidden gem of a message there. So 15% of all deaths are CHD, so it's the leading cause of death in the United States. So again, lots of job security if you want to help people with their heart. Here's a diagram of the heart that can be really helpful. These are several risk factors, and they're the usual suspects. You've heard lectures on physical activity, and you know how important that is to keeping your heart healthy. Some of this is redundant with information that we're going to cover here in a moment. Physical inactivity. So the good news is it doesn't take a lot of time for a physical activity program to improve your heart. Physical inactivity, it can harm you in a variety of ways. So if you do start exercising, your heart is a muscle that gets stronger, more efficient, and more effective at pumping, and then you get better at blood pressure control because it pumps more effectively. Anytime your aerobic exercise burns more calories than other forms of exercise, so moving that much can reduce your body weight, and so there's less pressure and stress on your heart. It also lowers fat in your blood and improves the good kind of cholesterol. And also, being physically inactive, it decreases hidden inflammation, which we don't hear that much about, but it is a great way to just keep you. It's a prophylactic for all types of health benefits. When you're aerobically active, you're much less likely to be diabetic. Every 30 minutes of aerobic activities is like a shot of insulin, and so it behooves you to move your body. Increase and maintain good heart function, and so again, your heart just gets healthier the more active you are. People that exercise don't need to smoke as much, and they don't like to smoke as much just because sometimes lung capacity is diminished. There's a lot of research to indicate it decreases stress and acts as a prophylactic for anxiety. So if you can exercise in the morning, the feel-gooderies that you get from it all day can be far-reaching. Counteracts a personal history of heart disease. So even if you are genetically predisposed, like I am, for heart complications, you can, by exercising, you can decrease those chances of it affecting you long term. Relationship between fitness levels and cardiovascular mortality. Again, take a gander at this, look at it, and then we'll move forward. We're going to move on. High blood pressure or hypertension. You guys probably know people with hypertension. It's your systolic, that top number is when the force reaches its apex during the heart's contraction. Diastolic is your blood pressure when it's at rest, and it's at the relaxation stage, so that's that lower number. Treatment for mild hypertension? Just like you'd think. More exercise. Weight control. The two are related. Low salt. Now this is tricky. There's salt everywhere. It's in bread, soups. Anytime you eat out, usually there's a lot of salt. So God designed us to crave salt, sugar, and fat. So if you can spice your foods in other creative ways so you don't need to add fat and salt, that can be far-reaching as far as really helping you stay healthy long term. Lower your alcohol and caffeine intake to improve hypertension. Smoking cessation, so quit smoking, get into one of those smoking cessation classes. And stress management, so knowing how to manage your stress effectively will improve hypertension. Anytime you weigh more than you should, that just puts more pressure on your heart. So when you're shaped like an apple, like some men are sometimes shaped like an apple, that can add undue amounts of stress on your cardiac region. Prevent increases in visceral fat through regular exercise. So like moving your body and burning calories is an important part of keeping your heart healthy. As you might suspect, cases of obesity and chronic disease risk factors are reduced with only 2 to 3%. So the good news is it doesn't take, it just takes a nominal amount of weight reduction to improve your heart health. Blood lipids. So this is fat and triglycerides. Blood lipid test measures total cholesterol, high density HDL cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. So look at that one every time you look at your blood draws for cholesterol. Recommended blood lipid levels, check it out. It's a rule, keeping it under 200 for total cholesterol is good. Now, a lot of people eat meat. Eating red meat every day increases your chances of heart disease. Improving omega-3 fatty acids, so eating the good fats like avocados and salmon and walnuts can act as a prophylactic for your heart health. Higher levels of LDL cholesterol speeds up process of atherosclerosis. Cholesterol is elevated by foods containing trans fats, hydrogenated fats, or partially hydrogenated vegetables. Lipids and disease risks. So cholesterol is in meats and it's in animal byproducts. So anytime you eat an animal or you eat dairy from an animal or an egg, like there's cholesterol in it. So you can decrease that with high levels that definitely can harm your heart in time. And then people use medicine, so that's statins. So statins are like Lipitor. If your parents or friends are on Lipitor, that is a medicine that definitely decreases the amount of cholesterol in your body and improves liver function. So I'm not going to put too fine a point on it, but exercising often will improve your cholesterol profile. Lowering LDLs, again, proper nutrition, maintaining a normal body size, losing body fat, taking a statin, and participating in regular aerobic exercise will definitely improve your LDL cholesterol. So what we do in America is we eat too many processed foods, and so this can actually worsen your blood lipids. So if you don't just try to cut out fat, that's a rookie mistake, but try to limit it to 25 to 35%. That can improve your lean muscle mass, and also shifting towards polyunsaturated fats and decreasing the consumption of refined carbohydrates. So trying to avoid processed foods and decreasing caloric intake will improve your saturated fat. If you have elevated triglycerides, that's a lot of fat in our diets, and it can circulate in the blood. And so the problem is it can cause plaque buildup, and that after a while can cause issues with your heart, to decrease the effectiveness of your heart as a pump, and make your veins less effective. Your liver is this great place in your person. Praise God for your liver, because it detoxifies your body. So people are getting fatty liver disease in addition to cirrhosis of the liver as a direct result of too much fat and too much alcohol in their diet. Statins, this again is like Lipitor. So this is sort of a booster for your liver, and it can decrease triglycerides, produce small HDL. It has some side effects that people don't like at all. So my recommendation is to eat healthy and to to exercise as much as you can, so that you don't need to get on a statin, because there are side effects that are undesirable. High doses of nicotine, nicotinic acid or niacin, can lower LDL cholesterol and triglycerides. Also, fibrates lower triglycerides, so that's important. I want to improve these, and really you can do that by, best way is to eat more fruits and vegetables, and get sufficient amounts of vitamin B6. Inflammation. So inflammation in your person can trigger heart attacks, and it can be a really reactive protein. So this is problematic long term, not taking care of inflammation and not knowing. So elevated levels will increase your chances of a heart attack. And any type of plaque blood tests can assess your risk for coronary heart disease and strokes. You can look at this chart and dazzle the high, low levels of cardiovascular risk, looking at C-reactive proteins and cholesterol. All right, so changing gears a little bit from cardiovascular disease, yes, to diabetes. A little insecure saying this word. I'm going to stick with diabetes, though. Some say diabetes, others diabetes. I'm going to say I prefer diabetic. So when diabetes mellitus, condition in which blood glucose is unable to enter the cells. So this is getting more common. There's decreased rates of cardiovascular disease, but there's increased rates of diabetics, all not just in America, but it's a pandemic. In fact, there is, in a book I read recently, Fatland, How America Got to Be the Fattest Country in the World, it talks about Mexico is in danger of going bankrupt as a direct result of uncontrolled diabetics. So it's a problem. It's very serious. And in short, insulin, which is secreted by the pancreas, is deemed not as effective. So though it's essential to metabolize blood glucose, it's just not as resistant. It's not as helpful in someone that is a diabetic. Insulin resistance is when you're not able to process and your cells don't respond appropriately to the insulin. Chronic high blood pressure can do this, and it can lead to cardiovascular disease, stroke, nerve damage, vision loss, kidney damage, and decreased immune function. This is a problem because people don't usually die of being diabetic, but will die of complications of diabetes. So type 1 diabetes, insulin dependent, and this is only like 5% of diabetics are type 1, 5 to 10, whereas 90 to 95% of individuals are type 2 diabetics. This is non-insulin dependent diabetes. Insulin is not processed properly. So the types of diabetes, like I said, more than 80% of people with type 2 diabetes are overweight or have a history of overweight. So the two are definitely correlated. The more overweight or obese you are, you will have the propensity to be pre-diabetic or diabetic. Type 2 accounts for 99.5%, as I just said. Aerobic exercise helps. It's like a shot of insulin every time you go for 30 minutes. Array of metabolic abnormalities that contribute to development of arteriosclerosis is triggered by insulin resistance, low HDL, high triglycerides, and high blood pressure. Increased blood clotting mechanism can be problematic as well with diabetics. Metabolic syndrome. People with metabolic syndrome benefit from a distribution of daily caloric intake. So instead of eating one big old meal like a sumo wrestler does, it is wise to break up your caloric intake to maybe 4 sessions or even 5 sessions. So that's Zone Diet or even LT360, a local weight loss clinic that they focus on calories throughout the day so that your blood sugar never spikes and you can stay pretty even. ECG or EKG. This is how we read your impulses, electrical impulses in your heart. You can take it at rest, during exercise, during stress tests. So these are diagnostics to see how best to treat individuals with heart disease. Tobacco use. No secret here that smoking is bad. Cigarettes are real bad for you. So it's the number one single largest preventable cause of illness and premature death in the United States. So lots of research on this. There's been lots of campaigns and health promotion strategies to decrease the number of smokers, and that's pretty effective. So smoking is linked not only to cancer, but cardiovascular disease, bronchitis, emphysema, and peptic ulcers. So not great. How it affects coronary disease, smoking, it speeds up atherosclerosis, so your veins aren't as effective or efficient, decreases the good kind of cholesterol, and it increases risk of sudden death following a myocardial infarction, can cause fatal cardiac arrhythmias, so your heart can beat in a way that is not sustainable. The human body responds to stress by producing catecholamines. So God He made us so wonderfully that when we're under stress, that our hormones can spike and we get more epinephrine and norepinephrine and cortisol. Our blood pressure increases and our glucose levels increase and our blood gets stickier. And these are all mechanisms to help us during periods of stress. If we got hit by a car, this helps us to live longer and to not bleed out. But the bad news is when we're stressed for long periods of time, we get these physiological byproducts, but then we don't. It's really hard and unsustainable physiologically to experience all these increases. So exercise is one of the very best ways. Lots of documentation and research to indicate that this will improve your stress level. And excess catecholamines are metabolized and your body can return to a normal state. So high stress can be really deadly long term. Some of you chose your family poorly, like you picked your parents poorly. Some of you did a great job, but others of you made mistakes. So I picked poorly, honestly, and both my parents have cardiovascular disease and high cholesterol and are pre-diabetic. So just knowing your family history can help you know, like, hey, I've got to really take this stuff seriously because I have a propensity to be more unhealthy. Or some of you like won the genetic lottery and you're fine. Age and gender. So people think that women don't die of heart attacks. This is wrong. Women just tend to die about 10 years later or get affected 10 years later than men. So both genders are affected by cardiovascular disease, just at different ages. So the less active you are and the more obese and the poorer your nutrition, and you're increasing your chances. So your chronological age is like how on the calendar when you were born. Your physiological age can be totally different. You know people that are in their 70s but that are very ambulatory and that are extremely active. And I know people in our department model a lot of really healthy activity levels. And then people like your age that are, even though they're in their 20s, they move around like they're in their 70s. And so that would be like a physiological age. And you can get, there's different diagnostics for that. Since if you haven't had enough fun with diabetes and cardiovascular disease, the fun's just starting as we go into cancer. Yes, we're going to learn about deaths by cancer. So hold on to your hats. Cancer is a category of disease that shares similar traits, including gene mutation and uncontrolled cell growth. So there's all different kinds of cancers, but there are reoccurring themes that we'll talk about with cancers. So it's really uncontrolled cell growth and your DNA and your RNA. nucleus of each cell. The DNA makes up your genes, and then there's cell division that duplicate DNA sometimes perfectly and sometimes imperfectly. And when there's errors made, the enzyme sometimes can correct it. Sometimes an abnormal cell will divide without being repaired, and so both of the cells carry a defect, and they make more cells. There's several generations, and when more and millions of cells are made, a tumor develops. Two types of tumors. One is benign, won't hurt you so much. One is malignant, which is cancerous and will very much hurt you. So we treat these differently. Tumor size is about 1 million cells. A carcinoma, tumor remains encapsulated in the tissue, and it does not pose a serious threat. Metastasis. So a tumor continues to grow. It invades and destroys normal tissue. Angiogenesis. This is when there's a new network of blood and lymphatic vessels. It grows to deliver oxygen to tumors and carries away waste products. Metastasis is when cancer cells can break away and migrate. So problematic when it gets to the lymph nodes and goes to different parts of your person. Once cancer has spread, treatment is difficult. So treatment may kill most cancer cells, but there can be some left. You may survive becoming resistant to the same treatment, so it gets complicated how best to treat people with cancer. How do you prevent cancer? I guess this is where you key in. So what can you do about it? This is where your choices can guide your health. First of all, eat healthy. Do a big plant-based diet, eating lots of fruits and vegetables, soy and protein, and consuming just a light amount of alcohol. These are things, or none at all, that can really improve your chances against cancer. Also, just maintain your normal body weight. The average person in the United States will gain 1 pound per year, so 10 per decade. Don't do that. Cut it out. Get control of the way you eat and your eating patterns today. Don't stress eat. Don't emotionally binge. Don't reward yourself with food. Maintain a healthy body weight, and this will help you in a wide variety of ways all of your days. Don't use tobacco products. Don't chew gum instead, or find something else. Avoid excessive sun exposure. So if you've been in the tanning beds, cut it out. Sun lamps, those can be really damaging, can injure your skin and be harmful long term. Also monitoring your estrogen, so at different periods for women specifically, and then limiting radiation. Watch out where you work. Limit exposure to environmental toxins like asbestos, nickel, uranium, chromium compounds, vinyl chloride, and ether. Be really judicious about where you work and the spaces where you reside. Like we've mentioned several times before in this lecture, being active, exercising can very much be a prophylactic to cancer. So go out. One more reason to exercise today. Other risk factors, high levels of tension and stress. So learn how to cope with that stuff, like in a good, healthy way. Process your emotions so that you don't overeat or you don't partake in substances that are bad for you. Know your gene history and know how your environment can contribute in a negative way towards potentially giving you cancer. Early detection. Okay, so this is why you got to go to your general practitioner, because some of these things, it's not problematic unless it goes undetected. So go to your GP and do breast exams and do testicular self-examinations, and make sure you're getting the stuff checked out. Chronic lower respiratory disease. We're going to go straight from cancer to this problem. So this can be an issue as far as obstructing your lungs, and so you're not able to breathe correctly and well. That can contribute to emphysema and chronic bronchitis. This is problematic when you're exposed to pollution and tobacco. Accidents, all right? So we've talked about Cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. Let's go straight into something really just happy. No, that's not the right word. But let's go into accidents. They're the fourth leading cause of death. Okay, so automobile accidents, if you're texting and driving, my son tells me every time I get out my phone when I'm driving, stop text, stop wrecks. And he's right. He's 8 and he's wise. So, and also making sure you're buckling up. And then there's natural disasters that can be problematic as well. And just making poor judgment and confused mental state. Distracted drivers may experience attention blindness. Alcohol intoxication is a leading cause of fatal automobile accidents. So just call Lyft, if you drink too much or if you're with someone who is trying to drive. Just encourage another method of getting to a place. So with Lyft and Uber, that could help individuals make better choices. Substance abuse. So there's chemical dependence encompasses some of the most self-destructive behaviors in society today. So alcohol, hard drugs, cigarettes, people are looking to escape and looking to self-medicate. So alcohol is very prevalent and it's abused by about 17 million people. So if you're starting to, instead of engaging in, if you're using alcohol to escape often, and it's been something that people complain about or that's prevented you from being effective in your life, there's all kinds of ways to improve as far as there's all kinds of help locally and ways to engage in AA for support. So it's prevalent on college campuses. It gets abused often for people your age. It impairs your vision, your hearing, your motor performance, and judgment. So people can make some really seriously dumb mistakes that can affect them the rest of their lives when they are impaired by when they're under the influence. And then if you're on another drug in addition to alcohol, then that can be problematic as well. So long-term manifestations, you guys probably know people who've had issues with their liver or have had some type of cancer as a direct result of too much alcohol. Cardiomyopathy, so this is problematic for your heart when you drink too much. Inflammation, we talked about how that is an issue with heart disease. Sexual impotence is problematic when you're an alcoholic or you drink too much. Malnutrition, so brain cell damage, loss of memory, depression, psychosis, and hallucinations can all be byproducts of alcoholism as well. Illegal drugs. This isn't a great stat. I don't like it at all that the United States consumes about 2/3 of the world's drugs, illegal drugs. So that's 24.6 million people use drugs. So be aware that is very prevalent in the United States. There's dependence associated with it, all kinds of health problems, and depression and suicide as a direct result of drug abuse. Marijuana is commonly used, and I see that increasing. Today's marijuana is 10 times stronger than the marijuana used in the 1960s, so sometimes people can get kind of sentimental about hippies partaking in that, but it's a sort of a different drug in 2017 than it was 50, 60 years ago. Long-term effects include atrophy of the brain, decreased resistance to infectious disease, chronic bronchitis, lung cancer, and maybe sterility and impotence. So pretty big issues, negative issues associated. Cocaine can be problematic for your nose and can cause inflammation and congestion, paranoia, hallucinations, and death. So cocaine, hugs, not drugs. Methamphetamines, don't do them. They are very addictive, and you can purchase them at a lot of drugstores, just over-the-counter ingredients. So All kinds of negative side effects like confusion, hallucinations, inflammation of the heart lining, schizophrenia like mental disorder, and brain cell damage similar to stroke. So the long-term implications are very negative in addition to the short terms. It can also be very detrimental to you during pregnancy. Heroin is highly addictive. It's hard to determine the strength. People can overdose and be in a coma, die. People use it in a variety of ways. Withdrawal is painful, and there is methods of helping you during this time too. Symptoms of long-term use of heroin include all of the following: hallucinations, nightmares, sexual difficulties, impaired vision, reduced fertility, elevated risk for lung, liver, and cardiovascular disease. So these are problems associated with heroin. Ecstasy is also an issue. It spikes blood pressure, heart rate, and body temperature. Can lead to kidney failure, heart attack, stroke, or seizures. Damaging effects can be long-term to the brains: confusion, depression, sleep disorders, anxiety, aggression, paranoia, and impulsive behavior. So using ecstasy can affect you negatively. Synthetic cannabinoids or fake pot or spice, they again can be 100 times more potent than marijuana and affect you negatively. All kinds of ways to treat chemical dependencies. There's places locally, in addition to support groups and therapy sessions and Vivitrol and other pharmacological ways to help you fight for your health. And there's places on campus. There's therapists here on campus that can help you with your mental health and help you process your emotions in a really healthy way. Now, we're in luck. We've talked about drugs and diabetes and cardiovascular disease, and now we get to end. We're in the home stretch now with sexually transmitted infections. So, in short, don't get a sexually transmitted infection, and if you do, it's make some really good choices about spreading. Just make really great choices on how you deal with your illness and taking care of it, and also being honest about with your partners about it can be really helpful to keeping other people healthy as well. So there's all kinds of unknown STIs, and about half of Americans will have a sexually transmitted infection. The most common ones that you'll find in Tennessee and Nashville and the United States are chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, trichomoniasis, and these can all be cured if you catch them early. Now, these can't be cured, so watch out for HIV, HPV, genital warts, and hepatitis B. So these are caused by viruses, and there's no real cure available. So using condoms and abstaining from sex is, and you can get vaccines for a couple of these, so that can be beneficial as well. If you are sexually active, regular screenings for STI is important for your health. HIV is almost always a death sentence unless it's treated, and it ends with AIDS. It's spread among individuals who engage in risky sexual behavior. The virus can multiply and destroy white blood cells. An infected person becomes susceptible to opportunistic infections or cancer. So just like with diabetes, you don't usually die of this, but you die of pneumonia or complications of a cancer related to HIV and AIDS. It's progressive. Its incubation period can be 10 years before symptoms appear, and you can produce neurological abnormalities. Death results from the inability to fight off opportunistic infections, and it is incurable, so avoid it. HIV transmissions through blood, sexual contact, hypodermic needles, and mother to child. There is therapy that can delay the onset of AIDS. The best way to prevent STIs is being a mutually monogamous sexual relationship, and be really honest about your sexual history. Build your friendships and futures around people who respect you for who you are and what you believe. So this is key to your happiness and creating a social norm that's healthy. Avoid risky behaviors. Don't have sex with anonymous individuals or multiple partners, or don't have anal sex without a condom. Avoid sex with individuals who are IV drug users. And then sex with someone who has several sex partners is considered risky. Don't have unprotected sex, like use a condom with an infected person. Sexual contact of any kind with anyone who has symptoms of AIDS can be a poor choice as well. Sharing toothbrushes, razors, and or other items that could be contaminated with blood can be a bad idea as well. So as you think about your health journey, my prayer for you is that you can stay safe and that you can make good choices, and you can surround yourself with individuals that love themselves and are not self-destructive. And I pray that you'll seek help when you need to and guidance. You have resources. You have a lot of people on this campus that love you and want to see you succeed. I love you and I want to see you succeed. So take ownership of your health and improve other people's health by making great choices. I've enjoyed my journey with you. Thanks so much. Have a great and wonderful and healthy life.